This is a More Complete Beast podcast where we discover and distill strategies to drive the needle forward on your life. Sitting across from us today is Nathanael Morton. I'm just going to call him Nate because it's way shorter. And Nate escaped his 9-to-5 job to turn his side hustle into his main hustle. We're going to have a conversation about why he did it, how he did it. So hopefully if you're interested in that, you can do that too. So Nate's business centers around getting athletes more athletic, making them bouncier, making them jump higher. You have over 400 videos and a lot of them are about vertical jump. So the first question I have, dead serious. Since you are specializing in getting athletes to jump higher, could you get Zach Duncan?
I will be honest, it would be very hard to get Zach dunking.
He'd be like the next Muggsy Boats. For people listening to this podcast, which is most of the people, we're not exactly built like basketball players. So for Zach to get above the rim, it would be like a Cirque du Soleil type thing. Like we would be launching him out of a cannon. But
yeah, so when Nate makes this happen, you guys know he's the real deal.
Yeah,
right.
when he's actually dunking, you'll know that this is definitely the dude to get your
I'll really
up.
be selling programs at that point.
But in reality, man, why don't you tell us what your 9-to-5 job used to be and what made you get out of it? Why did you get out of it?
So my 9-to-5 job was a gym teacher. So I went to Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania for health and physical education. And it was funny because my junior to my senior year in college, I kind of realized I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to build my own business. I want to be my own boss. And that honestly caused a lot of sleepless nights. And I would call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to be my own boss. I want to be a trainer. I want to help athletes. She's like, well, you're already in your senior year. You might as well finish it out. So I finished it out. And then I was trying to build my business right out of college and progress was slower than I would have liked. So I was like, hey, while I'm trying to build this business, I should probably use my degree and go earn some money. So then I was a gym teacher for 5 years and I loved it. And I always tell people the second best job in the world for me would be a gym teacher. There's nothing wrong with it. It was great. I played capture the flag with the kids, kickball. I was in great shape. I would play every single period with the kids as I was teaching them. But it just wasn't the number one. Like the number one was I want to be my own boss. I'm very independent. I want to work for myself. If I want to work that day, I want to work. If I want to take a day off, I want to take a day off. If I want to sleep until 9, if I want to get up at 4, like I want to control my own life. And I think that was the main thing. I just naturally, that is what I wanted to do. And that is what made me kind of get out of teaching. So I loved teaching, but I just love being my own boss more.
That's interesting because the first episode that we did on this podcast is the lost millennial male. And one section of that podcast, we talked about people who might not be doing what they want to do and they want to develop something, a gift that they can give to society, give to the world. And one of the things that we talked about was you don't have to all of a sudden drop everything and pursue that passion. Instead, what you can do is find something that pays the bills and slowly carve away so that your side hustle becomes the main hustle. And that's exactly what you did. I think oftentimes people get overwhelmed with the fact like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. Okay, calm down. Use your free time to actually figure out what it is you want to do and then actually do that. And eventually, just like what happened with you, you were able to shift where you're making your primary income from something that you like to do to something that you loved to do. And I think that's a great, with a teaching degree and as a teacher, I know that teaching is a thankless job. You work a lot more than people realize, but you do have free time. And you did use that free time to create the business that is flourishing for you. So I think that's a huge first thing that kind of relates all the way back to the founding of this podcast, why we're actually doing this.
Can I just say one thing going off of that? I think that, so there's 2 things you said there. Number one is you have to be working evenings and weekends. Mm-hmm. And even like my prep periods, I would set up, make sure I'm good for my next period. And then I was lucky enough to have a computer in my office and I'm on there, answering athletes or, even editing a video. Sometimes I would bring my laptop. So as long as all my stuff for teaching is locked in, I did a little extra work there, and then weekends, evenings. But another thing is I liked teaching, but even if you don't like what you're doing now and you're trying to escape it and get to what you do love to do, you have to reframe it. You can't be 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, not loving what you do. So I reframed it. I'm talking to people. I'm teaching kids every single day. So I also do YouTube videos. What is interchangeable here? Well, speaking. I'm essentially speaking and learning how to craft and teach people. I'm teaching people on YouTube how to jump higher and how to, develop their athletic performance. I can work on that while I am teaching. I can build rapport with people. So whatever you are doing right now, your 9 to 5, there is something. Even when I was a lifeguard and I was cleaning toilets, literal feces, I used that as the way you do one thing, no matter how big or small, is the way you do everything. So I'm gonna clean the crap out of this toilet, literally. I'm gonna clean it so good, the best that I can. And if I just do that with everything in my life, it will transfer, and eventually I will build to what I do love to do and what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I think that another thing that you and I had a conversation off camera, and we were talking about how you kind of found your voice. I think a lot of people think that you have to have it figured out immediately out of the gate for you to get your side hustle going. But what you and I talked about, there were actually, and for people who don't know, Nate, or it's under Nathanael Morton, has a successful YouTube channel. You actually put out several hundred videos before you found what resonated the most with the audience that you wanted to connect with. So tell us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, so I had started off making videos on how to be successful and principles of success, which I find is very funny because I was not successful at all. I was just, I loved reading books, and I loved, principles of success, and I was very motivated and driven, and I loved to learn about that stuff. So I figured I would just, teach that on YouTube and talk about it on YouTube because that's what I love to do. But I was a basketball player my whole life. And I was into, vertical jump training and being the best basketball player that I could be. And in between those hundreds of videos, I just posted one video of me dunking. And I was like, hey, here's the workout I did that helped me dunk. And it just went viral and blew up. And I'm like, wait, all these success videos are getting 25 views. And this dunk video just got 40,000 views in 2 days. Like, maybe I have something here. So I kind of started in all the comments, hey, yeah, show us more, put out more videos. So then I just made more and more videos about, dunking and sports performance. And that is what people resonated with. But I think it was the background of all the success principles that helped me along the way, because those are universal. You need those for whatever you're going to do. But that's kind of how I found my voice, sort of by accident. It was a passion I had, but it was kind of a side passion. I realized I wasn't going to the NBA, but I still like to play basketball, still got my cardio that way, still like to train and work out. But it was kind of by accident that I found that on YouTube. But that just goes to show that you might not know where it's coming from, and, you can build something with whatever you love to do.
Mm-hmm. How long did so that jump video that you had that blew up, that was your first YouTube video that kind of went viral?
Yeah.
How long did it take? How many videos, how many years were you creating content before that one finally jumped out and blew up?
It was about a year. But then when that one blew up, I still, for YouTube, you need, 40,000 hours of watch time and 1,000 subscribers to earn money. So even after that, like, it wasn't enough. I wasn't earning any money, but I still do it because I love to create content, and I still, enjoyed what I was doing. And I believed that it would work in the long run. But it was about a year before I found that.
I think it's interesting too. And I'm going to relate this to a book that Zach and I have both read. You're a reader. I'm sure you've read it before, Atomic Habits. So I remember a portion of Atomic Habits where there was a professor who had two classes. He was a photography professor. In one class, he said, you're going to be graded on the quality of one photo. The other class, he said, you're going to be graded on how many photos you can take during this semester. What he found was that the person who had the best photos on average was not the person who focused on putting out one great photo. It was the people who shot a million shots. It was the practice. It was the consistency of taking photographs that allowed them to build and cultivate the skills necessary so they were actually the better photographer at the end. It was the quantity. Obviously, they're focusing on quality as well, but it was the quantity of shooting 1 million shots before you finally hit the bullseye. And I think that lesson is exactly what you lived. You had to go through the several hundred videos, the year of creating content before it was like, boom. Now everything culminated into being what your message, what your voice could be, and you could actually monetize that to turn your side hustle into something that actually made some money.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And, I don't want to keep bringing up my basketball team. I'm the head coach. No, I'm not. I'm the assistant coach of a basketball team, a high school team. And one thing I tell them all the time is, raise your hand if you want to go to the NBA. Everybody raises their hand, or play college. The only people who don't raise their hand is if we have they play another sport and I want to go to the Major League Baseball or something like that. But everyone always raises their hand. I'm like, okay, so you guys have the goals, you have the dreams, but you have to understand that what you do today is going to predicate whether or not you make it there. And for a lot of you, your actions today are not matching up with where you say you want to be. And this is everything in life. We all have goals, we all have dreams, we all have things we want to do. But you have to put in the work. You have to put in the hours. You have to put in those 1,000 photos. You have to put in the 1,000 videos. You have to put in the 1,000 shots. You have to put in the 500 makes a day. You have to put in the work today to get where you're going. So when I'm talking to my basketball team, I just want everyone here to know I see who is working hard and who isn't. So don't be disappointed when you're not working hard and your dreams don't come true. You have to put in the work today, because everything that you've done in the past, all the hard work, all the choices you made have led you to the success, the skill, or lack of success and lack of skill that you have right now. So everything that you do in the present right now is going to move you towards success in the future. So your actions today have to match up with where you say you want to go and where you say you want to be. And it takes those thousands and thousands of reps at no matter what your craft is.
So you're cultivating skills, you're cultivating discipline.
Yes.
And success, what I've noticed with guys that have been in here on our podcast, it's not simultaneous, it's sequential, meaning that what you've done today is predicated on what you did yesterday, which is predicated on what you did the day before. So what I mean by that is, think about it like training. All of us in this room are involved in fitness and training athletes in particular. But when you come in and you squat empty bar, 45 pounds, the next day you don't squat 400 pounds. You squat 50, 55, 60. And it's that compounding effect of getting just a little bit better every single day is what's going to elicit that response in the long term, which is maybe it's a NBA career, maybe it's a collegiate basketball career, maybe it's a successful YouTube channel or successful business. But I agree with you 100% is that people think it's all of a sudden going to come all at once, but it can't. That's not how it works. It's setting up the processes, the skills, the discipline, the systems over years and building on that, which is going to elicit a great athlete or a great business. So I think that's a salient point.
Nate, let's take it back to your story. You are a school teacher. You're making YouTube videos. You figure out, hey, this could be my voice whenever your jump video becomes viral. What's the next step? What were you thinking next? You're like, all right, this video blows up. What was next? And where were you at in life when that happened?
Next was, let's create more of these videos on vertical jump. I would say, honestly, up until 2 years ago, I wouldn't consider myself successful in quotes. But it's funny because I'm 31 now, but when I turned 30, I was like, you know what? I'm not even mad that I'm 30. Like, I am 30 and I've quote unquote made it as to what I want to do. I escaped my 9-to-5. I am my own boss. So it's kind of like, what's next? But when I was in that position, when I first went viral, man, I remember laying on the floor. How am I going to pay rent? Which bills do I choose to pay? I'm paying rent late. Now I got to pay a fee. I'm just ignoring the landlord. But it was just keep going, just every day you got to keep going. You got to get 1% better every day. So my next step really was, this worked. Now I need to just, create more of what's working and continue to learn and continue to develop and just continue along the way as I learn.
When was the moment that you quit your 9-to-5 job and you went all in on your business?
It was 2 summers ago. It was in between, I just got done with my 5th year of teaching, and I started earning more from, YouTube and my side hustle and training clients and training online and selling programs. Started earning more from that than I was earning as a teacher. And I thought to myself, should I just make double the money, or should I just go all in and just spend all my time? And this is what I've been working for. Like, I think it's time to do it. So I remember I called my supervisor, and I told her, I was like, hey, I got some bad news. She's like, oh no, you're not coming back. Cause I would talk about it. Everybody at school knew I had a YouTube channel and this is what I did. And I think for her, it was kind of like, oh, he made it, excuse me. But it was during that summer, and I just knew. And Samantha, my girlfriend, got mad at me because I have a higher tolerance for risk than she does, but I was kind of like, it's now or never. You get one life. I'm not gonna be a teacher my whole life and work for this and then just do both. Like I got to the point where I think it's time to make that jump, and I just made the leap.
That's awesome, man. I think that that tolerance for ambiguity, I think, is what holds a lot of people up. But I think how you did it was perfect. And I hate to keep harping on this point, but I think a lot of people need to hear this. I know that I'm thinking about somebody in particular that absolutely needs to hear this, is that you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to go all in all at once. You can take your time, develop it, develop your voice, develop your business in a way that you can actually replace enough of your income. Maybe it's not the whole thing. In your case, it was enough of your income where you can pay your bills and really pursue what you want to pursue full time. The next question I have, man, and this is when somebody's actually making that transition, when they're transitioning from a 9-to-5 job to being their own boss. When you're in a 9-to-5 job, you have a boss that's telling you the tasks that need done and the goals that need done. When you're in charge, you have to set those goals to be effective and efficient. So now that you're an entrepreneur, I want to know, how do you structure your day?
Structuring my day has been a learning process as well, because, we've all heard the story of, the rapper finally makes it and then he falls off, or the professional athlete makes it to the league. He's the number 1 draft pick, and then he's not really what everybody thought he was going to be.
Johnny Football.
Right. And I think a similar thing sort of happened to me. So I made it, quote unquote. And then I kind of not got lazy, but I kind of fell into that. Well, I have all day, every day to do whatever I want to do. I can play video games if I want to play video games. I can read a book if I want to read a book. I can make a video if I want to make a video. And I think for a second there, I got a little bit lazy. And have you ever heard of The Power of Broke?
No, tell me about it.
So I've never read it, but I've heard on Shark Tank, there's Damon John.
Yeah.
You know who that is?
Mm-hmm.
So he always talks about the power of broke. And even though he is massively successful, he wakes up every day like he's still broke.
Day one mentality.
And he's still grinding like he's still broke. So it took me a couple months, but back to your original question, after those few months where I'm like, oh, I can't just sit here and not make videos. The revenue and the money is not going to come in if I don't keep putting in work. So I can't stop doing what I did to get me here. But to answer your question, I think for me right now, I've figured out a plan where I have a daily routine. So I wake up in the morning and I do the same exact thing every day. I drink a greens drink, take a cold shower. I do my workout. I answer my athletes. I work on a video for that day. And then whatever big project that I have after that, it's just the same routine every single day. And then if I make it past my routine, which some days I don't. Some days I just get done with my routine and then I have a basketball game or, things come up and I don't make it past that. But at least I did my routine. At least I moved the needle a little bit. So my morning routine, my daily routine, I do every single day. If I make it past that and I have more time to work, then I have these big buckets of projects that I tap into. And one of them is like, I have a list of every single athlete that I coach online. It's like, I look at when's the last time I talked to them. It's like a retention list. And you go in and, hey, I haven't talked to this dude in a week. Go see how he's doing. So that's one big bucket. If I have extra time, I just make the extra effort to be a better coach. Another bucket is learning. If I have extra time to learn, I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I don't know everything about sports performance. I need to go research, or I need to go read books. I need to go learn. I need to go, become a better entrepreneur or a better coach. And then another one is, extra work, extra workouts. There's always the small things that we don't have time to do in our main workouts. It's like, well, you can't touch your toes, dude. Like, go do some extra mobility or some extra stretching or do something to move the needle forward in that aspect. So what works for me is every single day I do the same morning routine, at least to push the needle a little bit. And then if I make it past that routine, I tap into these bigger buckets and bigger projects of work. Good. But I do think that it's different for everybody. I don't think that's universal. I think that depending on who you are and how you are built and your mentality, I think that you need to find out what works for you, because you'll hear these successful entrepreneurs, they'll write it in a book, do things this way or do things this way. And everybody's, saying something different. And I'm saying, do your morning routine and then tap into your bigger projects. That doesn't work for everybody. You need to experiment and you need to find out what works for you to be the most efficient and productive.
I agree. You and I have a similar approach in that respect, is that I have this notebook on me right now and I put down, I don't want to call it a to-do list, but for lack of a better explanation, it is a to-do list where it's like, okay, these are the things I must do every single day to drive the needle forward. And then if I have free time, I do the same thing. Like, what is the next project that we kind of need to pursue in the gym, for the podcast, for, my rental property business? What do I need to be working on in the grand scheme of things for me to basically take, it might not be one step forward that day, but I know that I chip away at that stone, so eventually it becomes what I want it to be.
Right. And one thing on top of that, just very quickly, is doing a morning routine, or like you said, doing a to-do list every single day can get very monotonous. It can get boring. Some days you wake up and you don't feel like doing it. So I found that one thing that helps me is right before I do everything, I try to get back to my why. Like, why am I drinking a greens drink? Why am I doing a cold shower? Because cold showers suck. Like, yeah. I don't want to do a cold shower. I want to do a hot shower. Right. Like, it feels way better. So as I'm going through these things, if you just go through day after day after day after day after day, it gets boring and monotonous. And eventually you wake up and you're like, why am I doing this again? So you really have to stay connected to your purpose and your why. And one thing that's helped me is every single thing that I do, if I don't feel like doing it, ask myself, well, why am I doing this in the first place? Why am I doing a cold shower? I'm doing a cold shower because I want the health benefits that come with a cold shower, but mainly because I need to teach my mind and my brain that we don't do what we feel like doing. You have discipline. You do what is going to move you towards your goals, whether you want to do it or not. Like, you have to have that discipline. So, and then why am I working out? Sometimes I don't feel like working out, but if I tap into my why, well, I don't want to be fat. I want to look good. I don't want to be able to not jump high. I'm the vertical jump coach and I'm 31. I want people to look at me like, wow, he's 31 and he's bouncing like that. Like, this guy obviously knows what he's doing. So I just wanted to say one thing that's helped me is connecting. And you can do this no matter what you're doing. Even if you don't like your 9 to 5, connect with, goes back to, how can I reframe this? How can my 9 to 5 right now, let's say I'm at Lowe's helping people, like in somebody, hey, where are the nails at? It's like, you need to teach yourself to communicate and build rapport with people no matter who they are, and just be a good person. And no matter what you're doing, you can reframe that and use that. And if you just connect with your purpose, well, I'm here working at Lowe's because I'm building my side hustle on the side. So I think connecting with the deeper purpose of why you are doing things really helps, and it keeps everything from getting boring and monotonous.
You said a word, you said it several times, and it is another central tenet of this podcast. You were talking about purpose. Okay. And I think that a lot of people are having a hard time finding their purpose. And I kind of want to connect this with what you were saying before. So you have an information product. You help athletes jump higher. You yourself had a time in your life, I'm sure, where you couldn't dunk. And you had to train, you had to work to get to the point where you could dunk. So for people who want to, a good place to start with a purpose, and we have a whole system for it. It's on our first podcast. But if you want to kind of shorten that, make it a lot shorter, and just where to start from, if you're trying to create an information product like you have, what I'm taking from this conversation is that sometimes the best information product that you can create, the best business that you can create, the people that you can help the most is the person you used to be. It's the person you were before you had to build the skills to get to where you are now. So you played college basketball, you wanted to play in the NBA, you had to do all these different things to get your vert up. Well, there was a time where your vert wasn't there. So if you're somebody listening to this, like, I don't even know where to start. I want to get out of my 9-to-5. I want to help people. I don't know how to do it. Well, where are you now? What skills did you have to build to get to that point? That might be a great place to start. You know, I'm thinking about somebody in particular that has an advanced degree. She's super smart, can do a lot, pretty much anything, really. Just starting to think, well, how can I create something that is purpose driven? And it's, well, what skills have you built? And that alone is a great information product, because there's people out there that are 2 steps behind you, 3 steps behind you, and you can help them get to your point. You don't have to be the best in the world. And I think it's great that you have to be good, right? You have to be great. Like you said, if you were fat and you couldn't touch rim, there's no fucking chance I'm buying a jumper. I'm not buying a program off of you. But you don't have to be like Muggsy Boats, like skying up, like head above the rim, but you got to have some proof of concept. But more than anything, you've built up skills and resiliency and ability that you can pass on to somebody that's a couple steps behind you. And I thought that was, you didn't explicitly say that, but when you were talking about, yeah, I played basketball, yeah, I did these success principles, dude, you might not realize this, but you're teaching to people that were who you used to be. And I think that's a huge place for people to start if they're trying to get out of that 9-to-5 grind.
Right. That's exactly right. And I'm sure you guys have heard this, but they always say that the best instruction manuals are created by people who had a problem with that thing. So I find it very funny, but sometimes I'll see somebody who can jump really high naturally, because there's guys out there who don't train. Yeah. They can just bounce, man. They can just get up there.
I hate those people.
Me too.
I still play in men's leagues, and I had this guy on my team. He plays in a pro league. He's a good basketball player, but in the group chat, we play with another guy, and he's like, hey, don't be under the rim when EMAC comes down there, because whether you're on his team or not, he's dunking on you. And I'm like, man, this guy's exaggerating. Like, everybody says everybody got bounced. And this dude, first play of the game, I was standing right next to him. He's on my team. It hit the ball. We shoot a 3-pointer. The ball hits off the rim. This dude jumps. I jump up too. I didn't even touch the ball. This dude grabs the ball from like 2 feet above me, from a standing vertical jump, and grabs it and just dunks it. He's my height. Yeah. He's like 6 foot.
He's a beast.
So after the game, I'm like, hey man, do you train? Like, do you work on your vertical jump? He's like, no, bro, I just hoop. And I'm like, oh, so like, but then you'll ask other people, and like, there's been people in the NBA who have a high vertical jump. They're like, I just ate a bunch of cereal. Yeah. I'm like, what? Like, that's the worst advice. You're going to have every kid here eating Honey Nut Cheerios thinking he's going to jump higher. Yeah. But the best instruction manuals are from people who had trouble doing that thing, and they had to learn and find their way through it. And now they can teach other people how to also find their way through it. So that's a great point. I agree 100%.
I think it helps reinforce your why too, back to where you said purpose is, because if you had to live through that, if you had to suffer through that, if you had to figure it out, it's so much more emotional. It's so much more personal. It's so much easier for me to wake up in the morning and be like, why do I do what I do? Why do I serve the people I serve? Because I remember what it likes when I was in those people's shoes. It sucks and it's tough. And I had great coaches and I had great people speak life into me and remind me like, this is what it takes to get there. You're going to make it. And I think it just helps so much reinforce your why and your purpose.
Right. It really does.
That's
really
the best coaches I had were not the best athletes.
Right.
They were the dudes that were good, but they weren't the best. They didn't have that natural ability. They had to work for everything they had.
I completely agree.
Those are the best.
My best wrestling coach I ever had in high school had the worst collegiate resume. He had the worst one, and he was the best coach that we ever had.
Right. My high school basketball coach, I don't even think he played in college. He just played in high school. But this dude, man, he could get me to run through a wall. He was so motivating. He knew basketball. He just studied the game, and he was an excellent coach. It's kind of the same thing.
So you don't have to be the best in the world to create an information product.
No.
You just have to be several steps ahead of where you were.
But I do think that you should try to be the best. And if not the best, you have to be learning every day. Because for me, there's guys in the vertical jump space or basketball space or sports performance world who I look at them and I'm like, man, can I catch him? Because that dude is a beast. Like there's a guy named Paul Fabritz from PGF Performance who trains NBA players and he has vertical jump programs and he's doing everything that I do. But man, he's like a walking research study. It's like, how did this dude learn all of this? And I look at that, I'm like, man, can I catch him? And it's like, well, I got to be the best me, but I need to, there's levels to this. I need to continue to learn. I'm not there yet. I'm not the best yet. So you have to be, so if you're the one that struggled with that thing, it's great for you to make an information product on that, but you have to continue to develop and get better. You can't have a ceiling. You have to keep getting better, keep learning your craft.
Because success is sequential, and it's that 1% every day that maybe one day you're that dude. You know what I mean? You're the guy that's working with NBA players to increase their vertical. You know what I mean? But it's going to take that time of consistently learning and perfecting your craft. So the question I have too, just to kind of segue off of that, now that you are your own boss, you talked about getting better every day, learning every day. How do you do that now that you are the top dog in your business? You know what I mean? Like so for me, that's tough because I'm like, okay, how do I get better when I'm the dude in charge? So for me, it's, I spend a lot of money doing shit like that. I set this podcast room. I did it to help people for sure. But I also did it to help me. I don't have an advanced degree. I'm not the smartest dude. I don't have a lot of gifts. So this room right here, between us girls, I spent like 15 grand on this stuff. But this right here is paying for my master's degree in business. This right here is paying for my side D. This right here, having this conversation, is paying for how do I get better as a coach. So for me, having these types of conversations, putting my money where my mouth is what's going to allow me to grow my business and grow myself as, a husband, as one day a father, as an entrepreneur, as a leader, as an athlete. So when you're talking about getting better, what does that look like for you?
For me, I kind of have 4 buckets that I've created for myself that I need to get better at every single day. One of them is coaching and being a better trainer. So every day, sometimes I don't feel like training. I'll have guys, hit me up. Hey man, can I come through at 10 at night? I'm like, dude, it's 10 at night, bro. Like I'm trying to hang out and relax with my girlfriend and my dog and my cats. But I'm like, this is his dream too. I'm not doing anything. Like, yeah, come on through. And I have to, even though I don't feel like it, go back to what I said before and find out, why am I doing this again? Oh, because I want to be the best coach and trainer that I can possibly be. So in this session, I'm counting every rep. This dude is going to get sick of me because I'm 5, 6, come on, push, 7. It's like I could sit there and just sit in a chair and watch him. He knows what he's doing. He's squatted so many workouts before. He knows how to squat but I need to move it up faster. You want your vertical jump to go up. The bar speed is important. Push up fast. So number one is coaching. Like every day I'm answering my athletes online, or I'm training, or I'm coaching my high school kids. I have to be developing my craft at that. And I read books on that too, from John Wood. And there's all these coaches that wrote books. Why am I not reading these books? I need to be digesting what they have to say about coaching. So that's number one. The second one is my body. I need to be working on my body in some capacity every single day. I need to do something to train your mind first, train your body.
Yeah.
So I need to at least be doing a workout, or a vertical jump workout, or some mobility, or at least going for a walk outside. I got to do something. That's the second bucket that I'm trying to, improve and learn and develop every single day. The third one is, my business. I have to do something to build a better business, because I am not the best businessman. I'm not Gary Vaynerchuk. I'm not Mark Cuban. I'm not them at this point. So I need to study. I need to read a book. I need to do some sort of research on moving that aspect forward, or it could be taking an action to move that forward, or running a test to move that forward. So that's the third bucket that I have, and I'm drawing a blank. I'm forgetting my fourth bucket. But to answer your question is, because it's not really important what my buckets are, because everybody's buckets are going to be different.
Yeah.
But every single day, I'm just developing my craft, and I'm learning from people who know a lot more than I do, or figuring out ways that I can be a better coach, or a better trainer, or a better businessman, or a better entrepreneur. But what I do is I read, I learn, and then my slogan for my business is action is everything. So you got to put in some sort of action to get better at that every single day as well. So for me, it's learning, and it's taking some sort of action.
What I find interesting is one way that I find myself getting better every day is about who I spend time with in community. And I know that, like, when I walk into the gym, when I'm surrounded by business owners and also the people that I choose to spend time with outside of the gym, I'm getting better because I'm spending time with people that put their money where their mouth is, that are consistent, that do the things that suck every single day, that are working towards their purpose, that are working towards their passion. What I find interesting about your story is that you surround yourself with good community as well, but it's in a different way. You seem to find good community in who you spend time with when reading books, who you spend time with the videos you watch, who you look up to as business moguls. And even whenever you're in the gym with your athletes by leading, you're leading from the front whenever you're surrounded by your athletes. And that's different than the way that I find good community. I find good community very personal, on human connection, here in real time. I just find it interesting that the tenet is still the same. You still need to surround yourself with good community, but you find it in a very different way. I just think that's super interesting.
I think that's very important, because we can't all be surrounded by Gary Vaynerchuk and Mark Cuban and all these business moguls. We can't be surrounded by them every day, but we can read the books that they wrote, if they wrote a book, and we can listen to their podcasts, like this podcast. Everybody listening to this podcast, their life is getting better. Mm-hmm. You guys are helping so many people. So whether they just listen for entertainment or education, or they want to escape the 9-to-5, they are surrounding themselves with you every single day. And I mean, I don't know you guys all that well, but you look and you sound like a couple of good guys to be around every single day. It's funny you say that, because just a few weeks ago, my buddy Kevin, he said, it's hard to be around Nate and not be motivated and driven. I'm like, I think I'm doing my job, but I think it comes from reading all these books and surrounding myself with all these people and ideas. They say you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with, but you're also the 5 ideas and success principles that you surround yourself with the most. So if I'm reading all these books and it says, you got to execute, you got to take action, you got to be disciplined, those ideas have really ingrained themselves in me, because I surround myself with that stuff every single day, as I'm sure you guys do as well.
That's a lot of salient points. I just kind of want to recap a little bit. So, and then we're going to get into more tactical stuff on growing an online business. But it seems like you found a 9-to-5 job that allowed you enough time to work on your side hustle. Through relentless learning and execution, you were able to turn that side hustle into your main business. You continue every day to improve so you can continue to improve yourself and your business and your impact. So I think that you've used your free time extremely well, and now you're actually living your purpose. I want to talk a little bit about the actual tactics of an online business, because now somebody might be motivated. They're like, yes, I want to do this. I want to get out of my 9-to-5. I want to create an information product. I want to reach an audience. They're motivated right now. Tell us a little bit about your business model, because when you and I were talking off camera, YouTube, it seems like, is more of the top of a funnel and not the end all of your business. So what does your business actually look like?
YouTube, so social platforms in general, are like lead dominoes, because I don't earn that much money off of YouTube or Instagram and TikTok. I don't earn any money, and Facebook I don't even do. What else is there? Twitter, like I don't even use. But YouTube and Instagram, I earn some money, mostly from YouTube because that's where my audience is larger. But that's like a lead domino for everything else. People find me, and people can, if you want to start a side hustle or an information product, you have to leverage social media. Mm-hmm. A podcasting platform, you have to leverage it. And then it has to be value add marketing. Mm-hmm. Value add marketing. That means I'm not coming on here, hey, if you want to jump higher, it's not like an old infomercial, if you want to jump higher, just pay me $19.95 and I'll 3 times a month and I'll show you how to do it. Like, it's not like that. I have to give people a great workout for free that is going to help them do whatever they want to do. And then at the end of the video, I say, hey, if you like this workout, I have, a Beyond the Rim vertical jump training program. We have, a body weight one, and we have a weight training one. If you want to learn more about it, link is in the description. But I'm not selling through social media. I'm giving people value through a YouTube video or through an Instagram post. I'm teaching them what they care about, so that even if they don't have any money, that video or that post is going to help them increase their vertical jump, or no matter what it is, fix cars or anything. But social media the platforms are a lead domino. And I just say at the end of every video, hey, if you want to learn more, link in the description. And then through that, people find my programs, and I actually switched from just selling one-off programs. So I would say, hey, I have a vertical jump program, or I have an upper body program, or I have an athlete nutrition manual. Link is in the description. And then they would buy it, and they would just buy it one time, and then they don't ever have to talk to me again. So then I switched it to, hey, you can get every single program that I offer. I have like 10 programs for $20 a month. You can cancel at any time, but $20 a month gets you every single thing, all the exclusive content, all the workouts, everything that you need to be the best athlete possible. And then by switching from just buying a program one time for $75 to $20 a month, the monthly revenue is really what changed my life and allowed me to escape the 9-to-5 and do my business full time. But one other thing that I want to say along the lines of, you have to be giving out value for free. I think one thing that has really worked for me is, in my videos, let's say I make a YouTube video on, here's a vertical jump workout that you can use to increase your vertical jump. I'll say, by the way, comment JUMP, JUMP, down below in the comment section, if you want a free body weight vertical jump training program. And then they comment JUMP, and I link them a video that says, hey guys, thanks so much for commenting JUMP. If you want my program, just make sure you follow me on Instagram, tag 3 friends, and then DM me and say, I did the steps. I get so many people saying, I did the steps. And then I send them the program via email. So now I just got a comment on YouTube. I got them to follow me on Instagram. They tagged 3 people so that my audience grows. And then they put their email in. So now they're on my email list, and I can market on through email. So They got their free program, and it is an in-depth program. I don't mean to pat myself on the back, but other people aren't giving things for free. This is a crazy program, so you don't need any money. You could just get this free program and then unsubscribe from my email and unfollow me if you want. So I think that has really helped me, but it's all value add marketing. You don't just go and ask for money. It's like Gary Vaynerchuk, jab, 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 left hook, or whatever his book is. You need to give, and then ask, hey, if you care about this, I have some extra stuff if you're interested. But that's my business model.
That's actually genius, man. That's giving me a lot of ideas.
Yeah, I'm going to have to rewind that one.
Yeah, I'm going to have to watch that twice, dude.
Someone might have rewound it 3 times already, because I know I'm going to, and I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, I was starting to write it down. So just to kind of recap on that, you create value add content where that's basically the top of your funnel. It's on YouTube and Instagram. There's a couple social media platforms you don't use, but you're successful in the ones that you do use. That's the top of your funnel value add program. You then give away free stuff to grow your audience. That's the top of your funnel. And then that funnels down into your website where they can basically go on a recurring monthly basis so they can get programs. Basically what you're saying and what you're doing is you're giving away so much quality free content that the person's saying, man, this is so good and it's free. I can only imagine what the paid content is like. And then they'll just give you I do that all the time. Like right. I pay a ton. I buy a lot of different programs.
I'm the same way.
Because it's like, man, this shit is so good. What's behind the paywall? Right. And I find out, you know what I mean?
Right.
And even if not every single subscriber converts into a paying member, you're casting a wide enough net that in your case, you were able to replace that 9-to-5 job income with this recurring monthly basis of your subscription service. So now that you have this business, is there anything, you and I talked a little bit about this, but I think this is important to really hammer on, that you wish you did earlier in your business to get you where you are now faster?
Yes. So the number one thing that I think if I had just done this from the beginning, I would have, escaped my 9-to-5 within the first year, was going monthly on the monthly recurring memberships. So that it can, for people listening, that can, be what others do as well. It's not just strictly for my business model and vertical jump and sports performance. You could do that really in any industry that you're in. But if I would have went monthly instead of just saying, hey, buy a program for $50 or $75 one time and then they never see me again, that was one thing that immediately, overnight or over the first month. And I got that from another guy in my space. He said, hey man, why are you selling programs for $75? I'm like, well, what else do I do? He's like, dude, you need recurring monthly memberships, make it cheaper. And they can cancel at any time, but then you have that recurring monthly revenue. So that was one thing, but being consistent was really another thing that I have found. Like YouTube is great because I post a video today and people just watch it and watch it and watch it. And sometimes they're finding my videos from 5 years ago and 3 years ago and 2 years ago, and they're watching those, and I'm still earning money from those videos. Instagram and these other platforms are a little bit different. You kind of get lost in the weeds and you make a post and then it's here today and then it's gone. But because of that, I thought, I could just stop posting YouTube videos and earn money on all these old videos that I did. But I saw the trend that if I stop creating YouTube videos, my revenue and my memberships and my signups start to go down and down and down. And there's been periods of months where I didn't make a video and I was inconsistent. And then I'd post a video and they're like, he's back. Like, we thought you died. And I'm like, no, I'm alive, man. Like I just wasn't making videos. So now I post a YouTube video every single day now. And sometimes it's just my thoughts. Sometimes it's what people comment that they want to see, but I make a video every single day. And being consistent, I think if I would have been consistent back then, that would have accelerated my business, 100-fold.
There's two things there. One, One's a selfish question that I want to ask, and one I think is just something that you said that's great. That monthly subscription model that you talked about, that's so huge. I've seen that it becomes so popular. I don't know if I live under a rock and I'm just seeing it now, or if it's something that's newer, but if you can continue to add value to people and they stomach the $20 a month for the first 6 months, it becomes a part of their life. You become a part of their life. They have no problem paying you $20 a month if you continue to deliver value to them. Just like Spotify, same idea. I'll pay Spotify every month because it consistently delivers me value. I wonder if my mindset would be different if I paid one time for Spotify, if I would continue to think if it was still valuable. But one question I wanted to ask that is kind of selfish on my end is I kind of understand the YouTube, the monetization process for that. Specific number of watch time, specific number of subscribers, and then you earn a little bit of money. How did you make money off Instagram? Is it directly from the platform, or does Instagram actually pay you for being an influencer?
Instagram pays me for being an influencer. It's not very much. I'll tell you guys, it's like $150 a month. And sometimes I'll look and I'll be like, they didn't pay me this month. And it's like, so I don't really keep track that much on Instagram. But when I do my revenue each month and I'll be like, they didn't pay me. I wonder why. I don't know why, but it's only $150. So, whatever, it's not really, my main thing. But Instagram Reels are how and that's just the thing right now. If you're listening to this podcast a year from now, it might not be Reels.
It always changes.
Yeah,
Gary Vee.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. So Instagram Reels is how I am earning directly from Instagram, but I kind of do the same thing. Instagram's tougher because it's 60 seconds or less for a reel. So I might give them a good workout and then I don't have time to say, hey, check out my programs. So I'll just put it in the caption. But I always finish the end of my Instagram post, the copyright portion of the caption with, hey, link in bio if you want to check out my extra stuff, or I'll put it on my story.
Yeah.
So stories are huge because, I post, when I have members online that I coach and somebody will say, hey, just got a new PR for vertical jump, or hey, just dunked, first dunk ever. And then I'll post it on my story.
Social proof.
Jimmy just got his first dunk. Here's the link if you want to try to increase your bounce too.
Yeah.
So
once we get Zach dunking, dude, you're going to be like, pfft.
Yeah, I'll go way up.
Yeah.
My buddies always joke about that. I train a guy who's 6'7",
Sheesh.
super long arms, like 40-inch vertical jump, plays pro, but he can jump very high. He can obviously dunk. He can dunk on like 11 feet. And they're like, hey man, you should make like a funny post where you just have his baby picture. You just say like before and then after of him dunking, and it'd be like 3 months of my training and he went from this to this.
Yeah.
So just as a joke, but
yeah. So the Instagram Reels, it seems like that'll pay you a little bit, but that's also just more or less part of your funnel. How is, now getting more tactical again, how does YouTube Shorts compare to that? Is that something that drives traffic into your business, or is that something because I noticed that for us, when we're starting to do shorts, like we'll post up a video that we spent a ton of time on and it'll get like 118 views. I'm like, shit. But then I'll post up a little clip of it with hashtag shorts and it'll get like thousands of views. So my question is, since you actually have a profitable business in the YouTube space, do you notice that the shorts are driving traffic to your website, or is that something that's just kind of like almost like superfluous views that feel good, but they don't actually translate?
So YouTube Shorts are easier to go viral, which is great. For myself, I haven't earned much money off of YouTube Shorts, although they did just implement on YouTube that there's a partner program with Shorts. Yeah. And you're seeing YouTube channels now that they are all Shorts. Right. They don't even have long form, content. But for myself, I think that I had one YouTube short that did, decently well, and I earned like $50 from it. But I gained like, 200 subscribers from it, from that video. So for myself, I don't earn much money from YouTube Shorts, but I think it's a great strategy if you wanted to go that route, or even use it to, your podcast. What I have a podcast as well. What I do for my podcast is I do the long form podcast, and then I cut up little 3 to 10 minute clips, kind of like Joe Rogan does, JRE clips. And I put those on my Nathanael Morton Clips channel. And then I cut up, 10 to 60-second shorts, and I use those as well. So it's like Gary Vaynerchuk's sawdust strategy. You have one big thing, and then you kind of clip it up into smaller things and use that as well. But YouTube shorts are great if you want to, it has a way more, opportunity to go viral. I haven't earned much money off it, but I know there's people out there who do just shorts and they're going crazy viral, and I'm sure they're earning a lot of money from it. So
that's almost like you're using YouTube Shorts almost as a funnel to your funnel. You're using it as a funnel to basically get a ton of eyeballs that then funnel to your long form YouTube channel, which is subscribers.
Right.
Then you deliver value to your subscribers, and then eventually some of them will be like, man, this free content's so great. I want to see what's behind the paywall.
Right.
So it's a funnel into a funnel, basically. So it seems like there's a lot of moving parts in your business, which I think is awesome, man. I'm learning a lot from this because, we're trying to add a little online component to our business as well. So ours is a brick and mortar. All three of us work at the gym. It's like a brick and mortar business, but with a brick and mortar business, you're limited to a certain geographical region for the athletes that you can help and the people that can join the gym. And I'm super, and it's not a knock against the gym. I love the gym. I love that job. I love what I do. It's just, if we want to make a bigger impact and reach more people, I think we need to create an online product, an online fitness product that can help people. So I'm definitely taking a lot from this. And, if you're somebody that's listening and you're getting into the tactics on how to actually grow an online business, I think you're getting a lot from this too. One thing that you and I talked about off camera, and I think this is important for people that, they might be trying to learn a little bit about business. I know that you read a lot about training. Obviously, you got to be a great trainer. You got to be great at what you do for you to create an information product on what it is. You need to be several steps ahead of where you were for you to coach and teach the people that are where you used to be. Okay. We talked about this and there was a lot of overlap between us. What are some of the books that people can read that they're not involved in training, but they want to get involved in basically mastering their craft? What are some of the things, some of the books that stand out to you that helped you get to the place that you're at now in business?
Sure. So the first book that I would say I think everybody should read is, and I'm sure you guys have read it, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
Yep.
I think that one was huge for me, and that came at a time where I actually did a few bodybuilding shows, but I got last place in my first bodybuilding show. And immediately I went home and I started Googling, like, what is the difference between winners and losers? What's the difference between the successful and unsuccessful? Why is Michael Jordan? And I just started Googling it, like, and just immersing myself in that. And the books I used to, back when blogs were big, I would say, like, what are the 10 habits of successful people? And a lot of people kept referencing the book, Think and Grow Rich. So I'm like, let me order this book. So I got the book, and I was also broke, which helped because the book is about money, but it's mainly about how to become successful. And he gives you, the principles of success. And the book is from, the 1920s or 1930s, but the principles of success are timeless. So it talks about, persistence and desire and all these things, which are just so huge.
Vision
and just so much. So I think Think and Grow Rich is a great place to start. Think and Grow Rich would be my number one. And I read it every single year. And sometimes I get lazy and I only read the highlighted parts that I highlighted, but it seems like I take a different lesson from it every single time that I read it. And maybe they say that's because you're a different individual at this point.
Yeah.
So maybe something that you read before didn't resonate because you weren't this far in your journey. So no matter where you are in your journey, Think and Grow Rich can help. Another book that really helped me was Mastery by Robert Greene.
Favorite author.
Yeah. And he's awesome. And Mastery was huge for me because in my craft, and I was talking about PGF Performance, Paul Favorites before, who's the NBA trainer, he's just at the top of, he's the top. There's nobody above him. He's who I'm like, wow, if I could get there, I'd really be doing it. And to get there, you have to develop mastery. And there's a lot of things that I need to master. The number one thing that I need to master is sports performance. I have to help basketball players improve their sport performance, but I also have to master coaching and leadership and nutrition. There's so many things. So mastery and kind of the process of mastery was really huge for me in my journey. And then I'm going to cheat and give you two more.
That's fine. You're allowed.
But How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie was big for me. And I'm not proud of this, but I used to get in a lot of fights, and I was very argumentative, and I never had a father. It was just my mother and I always had this chip on my shoulder, and I had this big ego, and I was always like, the world's against me. And then I was like, I'm not reading a book called How to Win Friends. I don't need to win any friends. I have enough friends. And How to Influence People. But all these blogs and all these, when I was Googling how to be successful, they kept saying, read this book. So I read the book, and it just really transformed my perspective on life. And he tells this story about he's letting his dog run in the park, and this police officer comes up, or the park ranger, and he says, hey, your dog can't be off your leash. You have to have your dog on your leash. And he's like, okay, I'm sorry. He puts him on the leash. And then the next day he comes out and he lets his dog off the leash again. He's like, you know what? I'll just deal with the consequences. And the police officer is there again. And he comes up, and the police officer stomping over, so all mad. And he looks at him. He's like, you know what, sir? I'm so sorry. You told me yesterday. That was my fault. I apologize. That's on me. It won't happen again. And the police officer completely changed his demeanor. And it's just like, that was huge for me. Like, why am I attacking the world so aggressively? And why do I think everybody's out to get me? And why do it's not bad to have a chip on your shoulder, but why am I going about things with this perspective that I am? So, and this is also as a basketball coach. As a basketball coach, my first year as a coach, which was actually last year, this is my second year as a coach, but last year I kind of looked at the referees as enemies. I'd be like, that was a bad call. Why'd he call that? And I'm like, what are you, an idiot? And like, that's not going to have the ref on your side. The next time your guy gets fouled, he's not calling it.
Right.
He doesn't like you. Mm-hmm. So I kind of, hey man, I don't know about that call. And then pat him on the back. Yeah, it's all right, man. Like, and just get along with the referee and get along with people in life and approach the world in a different way, as to where everyone is not out to get you, and, take responsibility, admit your faults. It's just a great book, I think, for entrepreneurs and for anybody to read in general. And then my last one is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And this one got me injured. I'm not going to lie. This book got me injured because I was so motivated, and I just went out and I ran 115 miles in a week when I had never ran before.
There's a YouTube video on it.
Right.
Of
yeah.
you doing it. Yeah.
And but it just really taught me that I cannot continue to accept weakness in myself. And I tell my players this. I say, somebody will say, hey, I can't make it to practice tomorrow because I got to babysit, or I can't make it because this, or I can't make it because of that. And some of the excuses, quote unquote, are legitimate excuses. But the rule is, if you didn't come to practice the day before, you either can't play in the game or you don't start in that game if you're a starter. And they'll be like, well, but coach, I had a funeral. And I'm like, that's perfectly acceptable. And you need to be at that funeral, or you need to babysit. Sometimes parents, like, they don't have anybody else, you have to babysit. Sometimes you have to do this. You have prior obligations, but the result is the result.
Yes.
You were not at practice yesterday, so you cannot start in the game today. And I understand it was a very valid excuse, but the result is the result. And same thing for my own life. If I'm overweight, or I can't jump high, or my business is failing, or I don't have a lot of money, the result is the result. I might not have had a father, but the results are the results.
Exactly
there's
right.
There's 1,000, 1 million people who haven't had a father and they made it. Mm-hmm. So that book was huge for me. It just taught me I cannot accept weakness in myself. So, but those are 4.
That's powerful. That gets you moving a little bit.
Yeah, that got me moving.
Got me fired up over here, about to jump out of my chair.
Dude, that's great. And it's awesome because I've read those books. And believe it or not, How to Win Friends and Influence People. If I had to pick one book that I could share with the entire world, it would be that one. And believe it or not, one of the first things that I had Zach do when he started working for me was read that book. You know, if you could see the copy of that book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I can't tell you how many times I've read it, how many times I've highlighted it, how many times I've taken notes on it. It's a beat ass book. You've seen it. Like the cover's falling off. The pages are like, I should just buy a new copy. But
those are the best. It wouldn't be the same.
It wouldn't be the same. No, it's like a trophy almost.
Right.
Like the pages are just all fucked up. Some of the letters are like, it's kind of nasty. But I believe that book is so powerful. And I've said this, I think, in every single episode so far of this podcast. What you do in life might be the science of your craft. In your case, it's the science of exercise, but it's the art of people. It's exactly what we do. It's the science, because we train, that's our jobs. We're trainers. It's the science of getting people in shape. It's the science of weight loss and gaining strength and improving performance when we're working with athletes. But it's the art of people. And you're right. People will come back to you. They'll want to do business with you. They'll treat you better. They'll share your story if you also treat them as a person and not just a science experiment. And I think How to Win Friends and Influence People, I've read it so many times because it shows me that, again, I'm in the science of exercise, but it's the art of people. And two other things I want to connect with. I understand kind of like your background because I too grew up just my mom and I, you know what I mean? And that chip on my shoulder, just trying to gather myself a little bit. I mean, it definitely put me in a bad spot throughout life. Like I've been arrested. I've been on, probation. I have a record. That's a fact. But I think it also kind of drove me forward because it allows you to draw on reserves that maybe some people that had a perfect life can't draw on. So I can understand that and resonate with that a lot. But in terms of mastery with Robert Greene, that came to me, like you said, you evolve over time. And sometimes when you read a book that you already read a year before, you read it again and you're like, holy shit, I took a lot from this. And mastery came to me at just the right time. I remember I was finally starting to make a little bit of money. Nothing crazy. It wasn't like, I'm not saying I'm wealthy now, I'm not, but I do okay for myself. But it was like right at a tipping point where it was like, okay, I'm making enough money to survive, but I have a degree in mathematics, a minor in economics. I had some good opportunities with that. And it's like, I was kind of at an inflection point where I could continue on the business path or I could get a job and probably make the same amount of money. And it was like, I was putting so much effort into this business. And I remember my wife and I, we were flying. It was like one of the first vacations we could afford to go on. And we were flying and I brought that book with me on the airplane. And that book just changed my life. It changed it at just the right time. I'm not saying like, I'm not a super religious guy or, universe, all that other shit, but I am saying that came at just the right time to understand that it takes so much effort to master your craft. And it's a commitment to mastering your craft. So there is going to come times, I'm sure it happens with you. It still happens with me where I'm like, damn, dude, what am I doing? Am I doing the right thing? Should I just go and do something else? But if your goal is to be the best, if your goal is to master a craft, you have to commit to it 100%. The easiest thing in the world, and Ed Milet says this, is to be 100% in on something. Because then you don't have to think about it. You're automatically, how to act. 99% in is one of the hardest places to be because there's always that little bit of doubt in the back of your head. Maybe I'm better off doing something else. Maybe I should get a job. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. But when you're 100% committed to something, that's how you break through. That's how you get to the next level. That's how you build the skills to be the best in your fucking industry, period. It's not by being 99% in. It's by being 100% committed. And that book came to me at just the right time. And look what we created. You know what I mean? We went from being just me. I was fired. I was fucking fired at the time from the gym that I now own. And it's not because I'm not gifted. I'm not that fucking smart. It was because I made 100% commitment to master my craft. And I think if there's a book where somebody is maybe a couple steps down the entrepreneur path, a couple steps down, trying to get to that point where it's like, I want to break through, I want to be the best. That's the book you need to read, because it will change how you think about things. So I just kind of wanted to share that because, dude, these books are so powerful, man. I think all of them are great. All of them serve a purpose. But I think wherever you start, depending on where you're at, for me, Mastery was so impactful. But I love Robert Greene too.
Right. I agree 100% with that. And I think the listeners, while you're listening, I think that they should ask themselves, are they 100% committed to whatever they want to do in life? And if you're not, you might need to reflect a little bit. Maybe you need to change your avenue of what you want to do with your life. Maybe you're still looking for your purpose like we talked about, but that is so true. You have to be, and I know Ed Milet, but I've never heard that. So that's kind of hitting me right now for the first time, but you have to be 100% in. And imagine if I made 100 videos when I started and I'm still getting 25 views and not earning any money. Imagine if I wasn't committed. After 100 videos, you think you would say, bro, this doesn't work. Do something else. But I'm like, no, if I just keep learning and getting better in all these principles that we're talking about, and I'm 100% committed to figuring this out, you will make it happen.
For sure.
So, 100% agree with everything you just said.
Nate, you've had, this is one question that we ask everybody on the podcast. And if you haven't taken anything away from this yet, you must not be listening at all very closely.
Right.
Because there's a lot of good information in this podcast. But one question that we do ask everybody on this podcast is, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
The best piece of advice that I have ever been given, and I don't even know where this came from, but if you are going to make it happen, it is up to you. If you are going to make it happen, it is up to you. And I don't mean to keep talking about basketball. This is just what I do. But this, like I said, many of these things can relate to anything that you want to do in life. But so last year was my first year as the assistant coach. This is my second year. Last year, I really wasn't stepping on anybody's toes. I got there and I'm like, well, I don't really know why we do things this way. And I went to high school at where I coach right now. 15 years ago, I played for this team that I am now coaching. And I got there and I'm like, why are we still using these same leaky ass water bottles that every time we take a drink out of them, they spill all over the player's shirt and all over the floor, and we got to continuously wipe the towel up? They're from 15 years ago, from when I went to school. Why do we have these same water bottles? And why do we have these crusty uniforms? And this is a great example. I texted our athletic director, hey, can we get in a fall basketball league? Because I'm looking at all these other teams and we're getting our ass beat by these other teams. And I'm like, why are they so much better than us? It's like, well, they have a lot more funding. Their parents have a lot more money to send them to AAU and, basketball camps, and they're in fall leagues and they're in spring leagues. So while we're only playing during the winter season, these kids are playing year round and they're getting way more reps than we are getting. So I text the athletic director and I asked my head coach, hey, can we get in a fall league? 3 weeks later, I'm like, hey, where are we at with that fall league? Sorry, we missed the deadline. It's like, well, now we're hurting the kids. So whose fault is that we didn't get in the fall league? Is it the head coach? Is it the athletic director? No, it's my fault. I only asked him one time and then I left it there. And this is something that so many people do. Your boss asks you, hey, where are we at on the project? Well, I sent an email. I'm just waiting to hear back. Or I made a phone call, left a voicemail, just waiting to hear back. So now we're pushing it onto other people and we don't have to do anything. We can just sit there lazy as hell until we hear back. It's like, if you want to be successful, it is up to you. I can't wait for somebody else to change the water bottles. I need to get new water bottles. I'm not the head coach. It doesn't matter. I get new water bottles. Hey, how do we get new uniforms? Hey, the athletic director, now we're going into a spring league. Hey, brother, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to get a restraining order, but every single time I see you, I'm asking you about this spring league. Mm-hmm. So I've asked them 16 times already. Guess what? I'm still going to ask you, because when I asked you about the fall league, I only asked once and we didn't get in a fall league, and that's hurting my kids and that's hurting my players. We need to get in this spring league. So my point is, it's up to you. It's up to me to fit. I can't say, well, we've had these water bottles for so long, so there must be a reason for it. If we were to get new water bottles, the head coach would have changed the water bottles, or the athletic director would have got us new water bottles or new uniforms. No, other people aren't going to do it. You have to do it. And this isn't to say you have to do everything yourself, but if you have goals and dreams and ambitions, you have to be the one to push things forward. You can't wait for other people to hand you success in your lap. That's the number one principle that I think has really helped me in my life. As I understood, or I began to understand that if I'm going to make it happen, it is up to me.
It's extreme ownership.
Exactly.
I think that ties in perfectly to your tagline, to the slogan for your business. Action is everything, right? The last person that we had on the podcast, Luke, talked about, and there's something that I took away from the last podcast. We were talking about reading and books like we do a lot on this podcast. And one thing that he mentioned was he's like, these principles are consistent in all of these self-help books. He said, if you haven't figured this out now, you're just reading to read.
Right.
Action is actually everything. It doesn't matter if you read 100 self-help books. It doesn't matter if you read those 4 books that you said. It doesn't matter if you read the best books that you said, Alex. What matters is if you execute on the principles that are in the book. The book's not going to do the work. You reading isn't going to do anything. There's a difference between what's the word I'm looking for. There's a difference between being productive and there's a difference between.
Yeah, are you busy or are you efficient?
Yeah, are you efficient or are you busy?
Right.
There's 2 different things. You can be busy reading these books, but are you efficient moving forward or executing these principles?
You know, I say this so many times in my videos that my audience is probably sick of hearing it, but I say every single time when I tell them action is everything at the end of the video, I say knowledge is not power. It is only potential power until you take action on what you know. And the only way that you actually know something is if you take what you know and create a result from it in your life. That's the only way that you know something. So reading all these books and all these self-help principles, like you just said, they're all similar. You're going to hear them in every book. But now what? Are you going to use them? Are you going to execute? Is action really everything for you? Because you can take a look at your life, and if your life really isn't the way that you want it to be right now, you have to look at what you did in the past. Have you been taking the actions that are going to move you to where you want to go? So I agree 100%.
Action is everything.
Action's everything.
Awesome, Nate. Why don't you tell the audience where they can find you? Because I think, dude, that's an exclamation point on this podcast. Let's wrap it up. Let's figure out where they can find you, how they can hear from you, and then we can go from there.
Sure. So the easiest way to find me would be YouTube and Instagram at Nathanael Morton, Nathanael, and then Morton, Morton. And then I also have a podcast. It's called the Action Athletics Podcast. So that's where they can find me.
Perfect. Awesome. This is a More Complete Beast podcast. If you learned something from this, do us a favor. Leave us a 5-star review wherever you're listening to this, okay? Because this thing is actually taken off, and it's really a gift to see how many people we're helping. But for us to continue to grow and reach more people, we need you to share this podcast and leave us a 5-star review. Nate, I want to thank you for coming here.
Thank you guys for having me. This was really awesome.
It was a pleasure, man. I definitely learned a lot. I know the audience did, and I'm happy to do this, man.
Thanks, guys.